week ago, Alice Latham had eye surgery, a simple correction to improve her sight and her appearance. She's been recuperating at her sister's house, enjoying the rest with little discomfort and high hopes for the future, until today. This afternoon, the doctor was to have removed the bandages from Alice's eyes. But after he examined her in his office, he said he thought they should stay on a little longer. Nothing serious, he said, just a precaution. Alice accepted the delay until a few moments ago.
Thanks, I'll just put them over here. Your sweater. So what can I get you to eat or drink?
Nothing. Thank you, Linda.
Not even a glass of water? How about a little music?
Please, no.
Okay. Hey, what's with you? I mean, you were fine on the way home. All of a sudden, you've turned into this tragic heroine.
I've been thinking.
Don't think.
I've been thinking how good it would be to get home, and I guess in my mind I pictured it all. The yard, the house, this room, the way I used to see it before the operation. You know. Then, when we got here
And you couldn't see it. Big deal. Hey, you're not missing that much, really.
It's more than that. I got to thinking of rainbows and the roses in your garden and your smile. What if I can't see you again?
Oh, now this is too much, really. The doctor said a couple of days to be on the safe side. Now look, I'm gonna find your brush and we're gonna...
I don't believe the doctor. I think he's giving me time to get used to it. If everything were okay, he'd have taken off the bandages. I just know it.
Don't you think he would have told me?
How do I know he didn't?
Alice?
There were a couple of minutes when the nurse was changing my bandages. And you and he were in the office. How do I know he didn't tell you then and made you promise not to tell me?
Alice, I wouldn't have made a promise like that. You know that.
Well, then, why have you been so awfully cheerful? Miss Mary Sunshine all the way home.
Okay. So I overdid it. Do you want to know what the doctor really said?
Yes.
When the nurse was taking off your bandages and changing them, he told me that I should try my best to keep your spirits up, because you'd probably be depressed, but that I shouldn't pay any attention to you because everything was going to be okay. Now, do you believe me?
Alice Latham believes she may have lost her sight, and the thought is terrifying. She always valued her vision. One of the reasons for her surgery was to improve it. And it never occurred to her that she might have to learn to live in a world she cannot see. But even if Alice should lose her sight, she has memory of things she has seen. Her mind's eye pictured the yard and house when she and her sister were on their way home, for example. We all have these vivid memory pictures. And we also have the ability to see imaginatively. Now, when someone describes something you've never seen, a waterfall, say, foaming white against deep green mountain trees, you may say, I can just see it. When you dream, you may visualize scenes as unusual as the one in this painting. Artists don't always work directly from real objects, from life itself. They often paint imaginary visions. With our eyes, we see what the painter imagined, or feared, or scenes they remember, or scenes based on a combination of imagination and remembered vision. But remembered vision is based on what we've seen in the past, and imagined vision usually uses part of scenes we remember. In other words, they both rely heavily on the simple biological process of vision. Biological vision begins with the eyes. Some people compare the eye to a camera. and there are similarities. Light enters a camera through its window. Light enters the eye through its window, the cornea. The light passes through a lens which focuses an image on the sensitive surface at the back of the eyeball. There, chemical receptor cells are activated, and signals are sent to the brain. But the eye isn't quite as simple as that sounds. Basically, the eye is a spherical organ. It's filled with a jelly-like fluid to help it hold its shape. This is a cow's eye, similar to a human eye. The cornea, or outer window, is transparent and flexible. It covers and protects the iris opening. The iris is the dark circle with the hole in it. It's the volume regulator for the eye, controlling the amount of light that enters. The iris expands in dim light to allow more light in, and contracts in bright light to reduce strain and glare. Does the color make a difference? We never thought so, but some recent studies seem to show that dark-colored eyes have quicker visual reactions. And people with light-colored eyes seem to have better peripheral vision. Peripheral vision is the ability to see over a wide area while we look straight ahead. As light passes through the cornea, it is refracted or bent. The curvature of these optical elements causes refracted light to focus in a single direction inwards. As light goes through the cornea, the focus is intensified. Then light reaches the lens, as in this cow's eye. The lens is soft and flexible, crystal clear, and functions as though it were of the finest ground glass. But the living lens has a capability no ground glass can duplicate. It can change its shape to enable sharp focusing regardless of the distance of the object being viewed. The lens flattens out for distant viewing, and it thickens for close-ups. As light is focused by the lens, the image is beamed inwards to the retina at the back of the eyeball. The retina is lined with millions of optical receptor cells, called rods and cones. The shorter, rounder cones are for seeing color and detail. The long tubular cells are the rods, which outnumber cones at a ratio of approximately 20-to-1. The rods are essentially light detectors, enabling us to see in low light levels. But if we move from light into darkness, it takes a while for the rods to adjust and take over. This is called adaptation. And if we move back into bright light from darkness, it takes time for the cones to adapt. Basically, the cones only work in the daytime. Notice then what happens as darkness approaches, and only the rods will be functional. First, there will be less color, and then only shades of gray with little detail. As they respond to a stimulus, the rods and cones work much like other sense receptors. They act as triggers, firing off messages to the brain in a code only the cerebral cortex can crack. And in a manner still poorly understood. Wonderful as they are, like all fine instruments, the eyes sometimes fail. Failure can come of accident, disease, or birth defect. And in the worst cases, when total blindness results, coping entails terrible trauma. Even a blind person, like the man on the back of the bicycle, can learn to live with his handicap. But for most of us, vision is the sense we'd most dread losing. And certainly even the most functionally competent blind person would rather see. But not all visually handicapped people are totally blind. Partial blindness and visual malfunctions are very common, particularly nearsightedness and farsightedness. But glasses or contact lenses usually take care of these problems. Most people become farsighted when they get older. This actually helps some nearsighted people. Their vision tends to improve. But whether it's good or faulty, vision requires light. Without light, we can't see. It's that simple. But what light is has been hotly debated ever since ancient Greek philosophers speculated about it. Centuries later, Sir Isaac Newton argued that light consisted of beams of particles. Some experiments tended to confirm this theory, but other experiments contradicted it. By the 1800s, there was a new theory that light really comes in waves. This theory lasted until early in our century, when Albert Einstein and others finally concluded that light is transmitted in waves of pulsating particles called photons. Waves of light are a form of energy, part of the vast electromagnetic spectrum. This is a band of radiation which ranges from the longest radio waves to X-rays and gamma rays, the shortest known wavelengths. Visible light, the waves that stimulate the eye, are in the middle of the spectrum. The shortest visible wavelength is violet, and next to it is the ultraviolet that tans us. Each different frequency or wavelength has its own unique properties. X-rays are well known for their penetrating qualities, useful in medical research and astronomy. Only by detection of these energy forms from space are we able to know what is out there. When we speak of light, we're referring to the visible spectrum. Generally, as it's beamed from a source, visible light appears to be white. But white light is actually a combination of all the visible colors. Sir Isaac Newton discovered that a prism breaks up white light into a colored spectrum, identical to that of a rainbow. But as he experimented further, Newton found that by beaming the spectrum through a second prism, the colors would recombine back into white light again. It was also Newton who came to the conclusion that we don't actually see objects. We see the light they reflect. What happens then to light that strikes an object and isn't reflected? It gets absorbed and converted into another energy form. Through technology, it can be converted to electricity. It can be a catalyst for chemical change. Or it can be converted to heat. While light waves vary in length and amplitude, they all travel at the same rate of speed, roughly 186,000 miles per second. This knowledge is invaluable in the study of astronomy. It's made it possible for scientists to calculate the distances of the stars. And without electromagnetic waves, particularly visible light, we would have no way of knowing that the outside universe even existed. Of course, we always knew the sun was there. In the beginning, it was our single primal source of light and warmth. When the sun set and light failed, we lived in great fear of dangerous things lurking unseen. Then we learned about fire, which helped drive away the fear that came with darkness. With today's technology, we have everything from electrical power to the thermonuclear bomb. Yet to most of us, the sun is still our primary source of light. And darkness still comes, still bringing fear to many. But to others, the movements of the sun have become inconsequential. With electric light, millions can live and work in an illuminated night. And the new lifestyle has brought about a revolution in culture. To many, a night light has come to mean night life. But for Alice Latham, the glittery lights of nights are only some of the wonders she can see. Her operation was a success. The delay in removing bandages only a precaution. She finds new wonder in seeing even the humblest little objects. She's going back to her own place now, the happiest she's ever been. Because vision interacts so intimately with the mind, it's natural that what and how we see, or don't see, has a tremendous impact on the way we feel. Moods are affected by light and darkness and color, so much so that our vocabulary is filled with vision-related adjectives and phrases, dim hopes, a shadow of a doubt, a bright future, gray areas, on and on. And color. Every mood and emotion we have can be matched to a color. Red, anger. Green, an experience. And colors evoke moods. Everyone can feel blue at times. The relationship between moods, your psychological state, and color is best illustrated in art. It is, in fact, essential to art. Art might be defined as an outlet for the expression of feeling. It certainly is for children, and color is the key. Bright colors and images can lift our spirits. Dark, somber colors can be depressing or soothing. Color can tell us a lot about the view the artist has of the world, or how he or she feels about it. But what is all this color that can affect us so strongly? The basic term for color is hue. There are 4 psychologically pure hues: blue, green, yellow, and red. But most of the color in our world is in shades of these familiar colors: blue, yellow, and red. Or mixtures of 2 or more. Combinations of hues can reproduce all the colors that can be seen. So, the same principles that apply in color photography work in our color receptors and brain. Some cells are sensitive to blue. Some to green. Some to red. But when our mind mixes them up together, we actually see all the other hues fill into their proper places. Mix a pure hue with white, though, and the color becomes weaker. This is called desaturation. Pastel colors, such as pink, are actually desaturated. As colors become less and less saturated, they eventually become gray. This happens at dusk, when the light fades. Black, white, and grays are completely desaturated hues. But because our eyes have light-sensitive rods, we can still see them. People who are entirely colorblind see everything this way. A much more common color deficiency is color weakness. People with this problem, usually men, have difficulty discriminating certain hues, usually red or green. Notice how the elimination of these hues affects the visual outcome. In a society where color plays such a significant role, this could be a serious deficiency, often with survival in the balance. But vision is far more than the recognition of symbols. Since earliest times, seeing has been part of the wonder of life and part of the discovery of what lies beyond, sometimes leading to magnificent discoveries. Discoveries of natural wonders, and by what we call inner vision, the sciences and arts. But for most of us today, biological vision is essential for just getting around in our world. And in enjoying the infinite variety of the world. magnificent spectacle of the universe itself can only be seen to be fully appreciated. Vision has been called the sense of wonder, and rightfully so. As much as 2/3 of the information we receive about all that exists in our world and our universe comes to us through this marvelous medium. And our eyes, the biological organs second only to the brain in complexity, are perhaps the ultimate window. Inwards, they have long been considered the window to the soul. But outwards, they are the window to the universe.